back to the farm. I'm back up in the orchard doing the last bits and bobs here. I brought up a couple of buckets of water earlier. Not the most efficient way to do it, coming up from the house with 5-gallon buckets in the back of the wagon going bouncy, bouncy, bounce. But we got most of the water up here and the rest of it got held in the wagon. So all of the new trees that went in yesterday have been watered, and all of the new trees from this year, mostly on this side, are now all mulched because I never came back up in the spring and mulched the couple of new trees that I put in. One thing I do have, though, let me show you, is I have tomato plants growing at the base of a couple of these fruit trees that I planted using the manure this spring. So you can see they're pretty healthy looking. They're a little short and certainly aren't putting out any fruit yet, but who knows, maybe we'll get some. Today, the next couple of days are going to be really swamped because I have a lot of meetings that I have to get to. The hazard of trying to be involved in your local community is it eats a lot of your time. Of course, it also doesn't help that I took 3 pottery classes this session when I should have taken 1. You only live once, right? So this is done. The other jobs I have on my list today, one's not going to get done. Probably, but I really would like to finish putting the straw down on the garden beds up front. So I don't know if I'm going to have any time. Maybe I'll dump it on Morgan. But if I could get those mulched, that would be one less thing on my list. I'm supposed to be mulching those paths and setting the posts for the side gate on the garden. But I have to leave here at, like, as soon as I get off work. So I'm not, this is all the time that I have. And, well, I've got 15 minutes. I might be able to get one bale down. All right, let's go back and see how much I can get done. Alright, so that's all I was able to get done. I got 3 more bales in place, and it really is pretty much taking a whole bale to mulch down the path really well. I would have moved more over, but the strings are breaking. So it's going to require either doing it piece by piece or loading a whole bale into the wagon and driving it around to where we want it. So I'm going to leave that for Morgan. Especially for those back beds, it'll just be easier to just shove it all in the wagon and drive it around. But this should use up most of that hay, which would be nice to I mean, don't get me wrong, I like having it, but this is what I have it for, is for putting down. You may have noticed I was wearing a mask. Because this is old hay, it's mildewed and has a lot of mold in it, which is fine for the garden, but why Shelly couldn't feed it to her animals because it would make them sick. And as we're cracking open the bales, those spores are just going everywhere. And there are a lot of stories of farmers getting those spores in their lungs and getting really permanently disabled from it. So if I'm moving old straw, I'm going to be wearing the mask, and I'll tell Morgan to do the same. But that's all I'm going to be able to do. Hopefully I'll show you some results this afternoon, and we'll see what we do tomorrow in my lunch hour, which is the only time I'll have tomorrow. Friday, no, I have a meeting on Friday too. Saturday I won't have much to do except for stuff here. So we'll see you back the rest of the week. Happy Saturday. Welcome back to the farm. This is an unusual Saturday for me because I don't have to be anywhere. It is Hall of Fame induction week in Cooperstown this weekend. So I'm not going anywhere near that, and I don't have to because my studio is literally right behind the Hall of Fame. And they have closed for the weekend because they know it's just going to be crazy trying to get in and out of town. So, which is great for me. It gives me a chance to get some projects done here that are in desperate need of getting done, especially since for some of them I'm on a timeline. As you can see, I've been out watering all the trees because I'm not going to make the same mistake I made last year. Josh was up here helping me with these up here. It's hard hauling water up here, and I have a plan to build a water collector up here so that I'll just be able to grab buckets full from up here. But that's not happening right now. What I have to do in the next couple of days, Monday starts the Otsego County Fair. And like a madwoman, I have entered 10 items into the fair. And I need to get all of those submissions ready to go. Some of them are still in the ground or still in frames. So the things that we're going to be focusing on today, I need to harvest the garlic, and I need to set up my extractor. I need to inspect the hives and grab a couple of clean new frames from that to extract for my fair entries. And then I've got all those frames from my dead outs that need to get extracted. So that's the list for today and maybe a little bit tomorrow. Let's get to it and see how much we get done. Wasn't too bad. I used the broad fork to start out with, but for the most part, except at this very end of the second bed, the soil was fairly soft, so I didn't really need to use the broad fork to loosen it up to pull the garlic. What I did notice that a lot of the stuff on that side was much more done than the stuff on this side. And I don't know if it's because of the crowding of the grass that it was challenging it more or not. So I'm not sure on that. I'm going to let this lay out here for a little bit. I need to go in and hydrate and then do some math. Because rather than order garlic this year, most of these heads, except for, I think this is Music, which is the stuff you get at the grocery store, basically. That had much smaller heads, but everything else had nice big heads, which is going to be great because I need to pick out 3 to 5 of these to enter in the county fair. So I will come out this afternoon, choose those 5, and then the math is to figure out how many cloves I need to plant the beds out in the new garden, which is where the garlic is going to live from now on. I've got 4 by 10 foot beds, so that's going to need 40 cloves per bed. I'm going to do 3 beds and figure out that there's 5 or 6 cloves in a head. So how many heads do I need to put aside of each variety for the beds I want to have over there? There's the noon whistle. I'm going to go in and get a drink. We'll come back out, punch these up, hang them, sort them, and get on with the next job. Let's take these short.
Grab that other set of shears so
Okay. And if you need the stool, it's right there.
grab it before we're done.
Bucket. You fill a bucket with sand and then fill it with mineral spirit, with mineral oil.
Yeah.
And then you can just stick these in and keep them in there.
Yes. It's less messy. At least less mess.
Welcome back. Talking to them. Talking to you. So what we're doing here, Avery's helping me make calls on what the biggest, nicest looking cloves are that we've got for each of the different varieties that we harvested. And then 2 of them we're putting aside to go in the fair because I have an entry, a garlic entry, which asks for 3 plus cloves of garlic. So I'm going to do a display kind of 2 of each of the 3 varieties that I think did the best. And let me show you those. Oh. Can you hand me one of those?
Yeah, just one.
So this one is the rosewood. This one's a little big, so it doesn't have it. But on the smaller ones, they have kind of a pink hue to it. This is a hardneck garlic. And you remember we talked earlier about the hardneck versus softneck. So these store really well. This is red Russian. You can see the red on that. And this is a soft neck. Now, the difference between a soft neck and a hard neck isn't a lot, but you can see how it bends a lot easier here. This is a fairly thick one. I have some that are older over there, and they're just flopping all over the place. And then this is a chestnut, which is a white garlic. And this is another hardneck. So these ones are going to go into storage once they've cured. And the Red Russian is probably what I'll use first because the soft neck doesn't store quite as well as the hard neck. So if I just work my way through those first. I also have a bunch that isn't the quality I like. The Music, which is actually the variety that you get at the grocery store, they all came out real small, and I'll show you when we get over to them, and just not very impressive. So I'm not entering those in the fair this year, and I'm not going to save them for seed for next year. I'm going to save the Red Russian and the chestnut and the rosewood just because they had the biggest heads of garlic and they look the nicest. So that's going to be our varieties for next year. And I did the math, and I'm saving 10 heads of each variety. So I should be able to get 50 cloves in each variety in each bed. So that should get us through. Let's get the rest of these done and move on to the next project, because there's always a next project.
Yeah. Like, I think it's slightly smaller than both of these options, but it just has a nicer color.
Yeah, forget those two.
Yeah.
Because that gets us some of that size.
Yeah.
Oh, let's start. Are you good to stick around, or do you need to get out?
I can stick for a little bit longer, but yes, I am getting close to.
Yeah, and you're getting red.
Oh, am I?
Yeah, your hands are really red.
Then yeah, no, I need to go ahead and.
All right.
Apologies.
Nope, no problem. Keeping the drawing board. This is what I mean about the soft neck garlics. When they dry out enough, they just flop like this. And these are the ones that when people braid garlic, they do the soft neck garlic because it's easy to do. It's a lot harder on the hard neck garlic because that stem just stays like a dry stick in the middle. But that also helps preserve it as it keeps over the winter. So we've got one more bundle. Josh is tying up our last bits and bobs right now. Then I'm going to collect any like loose heads or individual cloves that are just lying around. We'll use those right away. I might turn those into garlic. But I'm going to get these ones in the shed. satisfactory harvest. I'm pleased with that. So I've got like 10 bundles here and another 2 over here. I've got them in the shed to cure. So we want to give them time for the skins to dry out and the stalks to break down so that it's easier to store them. I do have windows in the shed, so there will be ventilation through here. And that's why I closed the door to the greenhouse, so we don't have the superheated air from the greenhouse coming through. So those will stay here for a couple of weeks, and then we'll clean them up and put them in storage for the winter. And I should have plenty of garlic. I use a lot of garlic, but I don't think I use that much garlic, but we'll see. All right, I am dying. I do not want to have to put that bee suit on. So I may wait till later this afternoon and go out and just steal the couple of frames that I need and put off doing the actual inspection until tomorrow when it's supposed to be a lot cooler. We are supposed to get rain tonight, I hope. I'm going to water tonight just to make sure that we do get rain tonight. Welcome back to the farm. It is a very humid day. It rained a lot this morning, but that just made things worse. We may be getting thunderstorms later. Hopefully that's going to help, but I'm done with this weather. We need the rain. What we need is 3 days of just constant soaking rain, but I don't think we're going to get that for a while. But in the meantime, I still have one major project I need to get done before the fair starts tomorrow morning. I have to deliver all of my submissions tomorrow morning. And the last one I have is a half pint of honey. So I went out to the hives yesterday. I didn't take you along with this because A, I wanted to be in and out quick, and B, I was just so hot and miserable. I didn't want to record it. So, but I did swap out for 4 beautiful frames of honey. And while I was getting those, I had a whole hunk of honeycomb break off the hive and just fall down into the box. So I pulled that out and we've been nibbling on that. So that's a really nice sweet treat. So I don't have all of the equipment that I need. I have my extractor. That's this big canister thing. And this is a very cool device. So I'll show you down inside. You can see down in here, there's spaces to hold. It says it'll hold 4 to 8 frames. I'm thinking it'll hold 3 at a time. I'm going to try and fit 4. And then you put the lid on it. And turn the handle. And it spins the inside like a centrifuge. And so it'll spin all the honey out of the comb, leaving the comb intact, which is great because then I can take that out to the hives, put it in. They're going to clean all the extra, whatever little bits of leftover honey are in there, and then reuse the honeycomb. So it's really great to have, especially if you're maybe starting a new colony and want to give them a leg up on getting started. So if I got a package of bees next year, I could use these frames to get started with that next year. But so for right now, what I need to do is, you can see the honey is all of these little cells that the bees have put a wax covering over the top of. And that keeps the honey in the cells so it's not running all over the place. You can see down here where some of the cells have broken open, it's just kind of leaked out onto the frame. So I need, and that's the big piece that I do not have. There are a bunch of little tools that you can get for decapping. There are heated knives. There are little roller tools with spikes on them that poke all the holes out. There's all different kinds of stuff. I don't have any of those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and just use a chef's knife and just cut the wax off. That'll go in this bowl that I've set up with cheesecloth. So the honey will drip out and the cheesecloth will hold the wax, and then I can melt the wax down. Then once those are decapped, I'll put the frames in here, spin it out, let it sit, and then I'm going to have to prop the legs up because it won't, the 5-gallon bucket I got to store the honey in won't fit under the tap. So once it's done, I'll put it up on blocks or put it up on the counter, or I'll find something to prop it up on, and then we'll run the honey out of the extractor through a cheesecloth and the sieve to catch any last bits of honey that are coming out. And then that'll all be the clear honey collected in the bucket, and I can tap out just however much honey I need at a time to can up and take to the fair. I only need a half pint. Unlike some of my canned goods, that bottom shelf is all of my fair submissions. For preserves, you have to have 2 jars. One for display and one for taste testing. But I don't need that for the honey. I just need the 1 jar. But I want to do all 4 of these frames. I wanted to make sure I had enough honey. I wanted it to be fresh honey, which is why I'm not using the honey out of the shed, because that honey was sitting in a shed with a bunch of dead onions, so it's probably absorbed that oniony smell. So I didn't want to use that when I'm submitting these for competition. That I will get to extracting that, not today, but I need those frames back because I'm actually running out of space in my hives. They're doing a great job this year, and they're well into the top boxes on both hives. So in the next week or 2, I'm going to need to put more boxes on there. And to do that, I need empty boxes, and I don't have any at the moment. So, all right, let's see if I can make this decapping work. Cross your fingers for me. can see all the cells all ready to be used again. So now I just want to clean up the wax, and these can go out to the bees. All right, so I've got most of the mess cleaned up. I had wax and honey all over the counter here. The empty frames are in here, and tomorrow, hopefully it'll stop raining, I'll take these up to the hives and let them pick and clean, and then store them away for next year. This is all of the decapping that I had, and that's going to sit here under pressure probably till tomorrow, just to get all the last bits of honey out of that we can. And then that and the wax from when we extracted with Crow, that will all go in a crock pot with some other wax I've collected over the year, and we'll melt that all down and make clean beeswax out of that. So I'll take you along for that trip. I've got the extractor closed up, and I'm going to let it sit here for a couple of hours, just so any of the honey that's on the walls of the extractor can drip down into the bottom, and then we will filter it into the big bucket, and I can get my half pint out of that. Hi. Not that hard. My experiment with doing 9 frames is kind of a hit and miss. It definitely worked the way I'd hoped it would for decapping. That because the comb was higher, it was easier to cut off from the frame just with a knife. So I didn't really have a lot of problem, except one frame it was a little low. So that was a little harder to decap. But for the most part, that worked out great. I'm seeing problems with it in the hive that I'm hoping I can get Steve out to look at with me to see if this is a failed experiment or if there's something different I could do to make it work better. And that's that. Tomorrow morning, I don't know if I'll take you along to deliver this stuff to the fair. Somebody is being very demanding of attention. You want to say hello to the people? You want to say hello to the people? No. He just wants scritches or wants me to do something that isn't very clear to me at the moment. It is, every time it rains, it gets more and more humid. I am just dying. So I am going to go sit in front of a fan, and I will see you back here tomorrow and next week for Fair Week. So stick around and we'll see what we get up to next. Take care, everybody.